Welcome to another episode of the Girl Power Alliance podcast. This is exciting. It's 2021 and I have an amazing woman on here who I don't even know it. We must have met through Facebook, and we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, I think we did.
But I literally fell in love with her like the second I met her. Let me tell you a little bit about her so we can get right into this. Stephanie Sims, she's been married to her husband for over 10 years. They have 4 little boys and another, do you know boy or girl yet?
We're not finding out.
Oh, you're not finding
So we're
out.
just making everyone crazy. Yeah.
She has a bun in the oven.
Mhm.
And they're foster parents. She's a special education teacher by trade. She stepped away from the classroom to pursue her business. So she's an entrepreneur at heart. It's called Legacy Through Motherhood. The heartbeat of her business is generational change. She helps women, specifically moms, become the inflection point in her family. She speaks on 5 main topics: faith, finances, health, marriage, and mindset. Her favorite topic to talk about is finances. Over 4 years ago, her and her husband had a negative net worth, and now they are worth over 500,000, and it's growing. It's probably bigger than that since this bio was written. And she loves to help other women figure out their budgets through one-to-one coaching. And she's also the coach on the topic of money mindset through her signature course, Entrusted with Her Finances. And just little like ... about her. She loves sand volleyball, a good margarita, taking naps, especially now that you're pregnant and with all those kids
Yes.
running around, and a
Yes.
good pumpkin cream cold brew. I can't do cold
Yes.
brew. It's too much caffeine for me, but it tastes amazing.
I just had my first one since being pregnant like a week ago and it was delicious. So,
It is.
I
Welcome to
miss
the
it.
podcast.
Thank you for having me so much.
I'm so excited. I think we must have met through a Facebook podcast page. Is
We did. And then I think we connected and then we just talked via like Messenger for like an hour afterwards, I feel
It
like.
probably was. I had something that had been on my heart, and something that's part of the Radiant Leadership Academy is really, I think it's so important to really hone in and talk about finances.
Yes.
Women especially hate to talk about money. They get uncomfortable with it. They don't want to talk about it. They avoid it. Like if you ask them anything about finances or budgeting or what's in their bank account, they flip out, and or they are. It seems to me that's the majority, and then there's a small percentage of women that do know. And I just feel like God talks about money over. I mean, the Bible talks about money over 300 times. That's
Mhm.
a lot of times.
It is.
I mean, that's a lot of talk about money. And so obviously it's an important topic in the kingdom. And prior to meeting Stephanie, I had literally been looking. I'd been looking and looking and felt in my spirit that I wanted to have something. I wanted to have a feature in Girl Power Alliance that was, I mean, I could do it, but I wanted somebody that this was what they did by trade. And so I had my feelers out, and a couple of times I had women say, yes, I'd love to do it. And for whatever reason, it never happened. So
Mhm.
when I met Stephanie, she had me on her podcast, and I was like, I'm obsessed with you. And I started hearing about all the things that she does. And so I just said, hey, would you be interested in doing this? She said yes. And so
Here we are.
literally it makes my whole body have chills because I'm so excited because now you are a part of Girl Power Alliance.
Yeah, well, and I love it. Thank you so much. Yeah, we're just like, organizing this whole year, your theme of like having your best year ever. And I am just like, just giddy as I'll get out. I can talk about finances all day long. And you're absolutely right. Like, I feel like women, especially, we've been conditioned just in in the past and just past generations even that men handle the money, they make the money, we handle the home, whatever, like we all know this, right? This is what it used to be. And then, and there's also a lot of thought of like, it's in like people think that women who know how to handle money or finances or even like business, it used to be that it was very intimidating and they didn't feel like, you could have, and I just had a conversation with Barbara Huson,
I saw that.
formerly Stanley. She wrote Secrets of Six Figure Women, Prince Charming is Not Coming. She's a very big women, empowerment financial coach, therapist. And she was just saying that like a lot of women felt like they couldn't have the power with the money and the man. Like it was they had to choose. Like, do I just be this like domestic woman and have the husband take care of me? Or, and obviously now the pendulum's kind of swinging where there's women that are just rising up in the workforce and building their own business and empires and making millions and, all of this stuff. And so, but there is this really weird, just thing where we have been conditioned that talking about money is rude, that talking about money is, just offensive or whatever to like
Worldly?
ask, yes, worldly, from the pulpit, right? And so it's a good conversation to have and it's a healthy conversation to have. And I was reading, I think it was Rich Dad Poor Dad, which I would like, if you have not read that, go read it right
Okay.
now. But at the end, it talked about how people, and this just stuck out to me and I will always remember it, but it talked about how people who don't have money. So like I say poor, but I almost mean like more of a poorer mindset,
Yeah.
like a lower class mindset, that they think talking about money is rude and offensive, where people with a world class financial mindset, they think about talking about money as intellectual. And it's really interesting to me because if you think about it, what do we like to talk about? We like to talk about things we're confident about, that we've experienced it, and that we feel really good about, that we can like contribute to. Well, if you don't like to talk, if you don't feel confident in your finances and you don't feel like you have something to contribute and you feel really insecure, that's not going to be something that you want to talk about, which means you're not going to ask questions, which means it is going to feel offensive or intrusive if somebody comes and asks you about your finances because you're like, I don't want to talk about
Yeah.
this. But if you feel really confident, like now how I feel now, when somebody comes up and starts talking, I'm like, oh, I'll talk all day long. Me and my mom will talk an hour on finances. And so it's just this shift in mindset that has to be made, that it's okay, to talk about finances. And it's also, a lot of us feel the same way. We all feel like we should know more
Yeah.
than we do. And so I don't know, that's kind of where I've been stepping in at.
Well, what was the shift for you then? Like, was it a thing? Was it something that progressed over time? But what or were you always this way? What happened that created this confidence in you or even just the interest in kind of the whole financial world?
Yeah. So like you were saying just kind of in the intro. So literally 4.5 years ago, my husband and I were in a ton of debt. And I was working full time as a teacher, like you were saying. And I had no desire to be a stay-at-home mom. There's a whole reason behind that I'm not going to go into. I had no desire to be a stay-at-home mom until I had a kid. And then all of a sudden, and my husband and I, we made decent money. I mean, I didn't make a ton of money as a teacher, you know. My husband worked for Target. And so we made decent money, but we didn't, we weren't, whatever. So I was like, well, I should be able to stay home. Right. And I just realized once I started to crunch our numbers, which we honestly never paid attention to because we made quote unquote good money, I realized we couldn't, like, we needed my income. I did not make that much. And then when you take out childcare, and I commuted an hour, so I live like kind of in the suburbs, and I taught in an inner city school, so I commuted an hour both ways. So gas, you know what I mean? Like all like childcare, all of that. Like I still couldn't afford to lose my income, especially because I carried the insurance. And then I got mad because I was like, hold on a second. We make decent money and I feel like we did what we were supposed to do. We went to college, we got the jobs, like, we got our house, we got the cars, like everything that seems normal, we did. And then I feel like one day I just woke up and I was like, wait,
Did we do
this
something
isn't right.
wrong? Yeah.
Yeah, like I didn't. And so I think that and let me just say that because this is important detail in our journey, that I moved a ton when I was a child. And so I really wanted to have our first house be the house my grandchildren would walk up the driveway to. So we kind of stretched ourselves for our dream house right off the bat. Again, though, we thought we made decent money, whatever. We got the nice car. My husband had an Audi. I had like a Kia Sorento, whatever. And so I think I liked our lifestyle. And so I went back to work, had my second baby, got annoyed again, but didn't really do change anything. And then I had my third, and then I got pissed. Like that's when I was like, I am missing my children, And listen, not everybody wants to be a stay-at-home mom. That's totally fine. For me, I did, and I would like at that point I got pissed, and something happened. We got a letter in the mail from a nonprofit that we support, and they were asking for $3,000 to ship this container of fire gear over to Africa. And I looked at my husband, and I'll never forget sitting in our kitchen saying, I want to be able to write this check. And like $3,000 is a chunk of change, but we're having almost 3,000 or $1,000 a month car payments. Do you know what I mean? Like, what are our
Yeah.
priorities? Like, what is happening here? So that is when I actually got pissed, and we downsized our home. I sold our house. My husband sold his Audi that he only had for a year. We lost money on it. We do it 100 times over. People have that conversation with me all the time, or they'll say like, well, we're not going to get what we can out of our truck or whatever it is. And we downsized. I got serious about a budget. I sat down with my mom, who she had done this whole financial journey right before me. And we just got really freaking serious. And we, like I said, the pendulum swung from being in debt, a negative net worth, to over a half a million now, 4.5 years later.
That's fast.
It is. Well, and it's amazing because if you think about, your net worth isn't, what's in your bank account. It's literally like your debt to income ratio. So when you get rid of your debt and you get rid of the crazy house and you get rid of the cars, like that really can swing. And we started to learn and invest in rental properties, and that's a whole thing. But yeah, I mean, that's the other thing that I feel like I love talking about. It's like people think that it's going to be 20 years from now, and it's like that's not true. Like you just have to get some clarity. You might have to make some hard decisions, and then you start running.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's important, and I feel like from kind of a faith, a kingdom mindset, that the enemy will use finances in so many ways. I mean, statistically, they say that half of the divorces in this country could be saved by an additional $500 a month in income, because its
wow,
finances are such a big deal. And it's the
yep,
same similar situation with bankruptcies. It's like 400, an extra $400 a month would save, like half of the bankruptcies in this country.
mhm,
And so finances are a big deal. It's a huge stressor. We've created it, right? We have all these things that we require, monthly things, and
yep,
um, I mean, this is not a for me, this is not a frivolous thing.
right,
I mean, we have all
right,
these we have all these
right,
things that are like extra, but they all cost money. And, as a kind of backing up on something that you were talking about, we're taught all these things, or we're conditioned as women, like you
mhm,
said, generationally, who knows, has a lot of it, I think, came from kind of this religious conditioning of these specific roles that you were supposed to have as a man and a woman. And, as a woman entrepreneur who is a crazy follower of Jesus, there's another whole set of things where, in my experience, I'm 47. I have, for the bulk of my adult life, I'm an entrepreneur, I always have been. And I have never fit exactly into kind of this churchy person. And so people say, "Oh, you're so
mhm,
religious." I'm not religious. I'm crazy in love with Jesus, and I live my life following him, but I say I'm not religious because I don't fit into the box. Because as an entrepreneur, as a woman that is driven by creating and building wealth and teaching other people how to do it through the different, vehicles that I've used, I'm worldly in that world. And you kind of never can cross over. I
mhm,
or up until a certain time. Yeah, it's happening now, but there was this. And if you talked about money, you not only were you worldly, but you were out. Like you couldn't.
right,
You were not the kind of person that they wanted leading or around other women, because you were too worldly. All you talked about was money. It's not godly to be wealthy, to be really spiritual. You need to be damn broke and poor
mhm,
as a pauper. And I kind of grew up with that mentality where, money is the root of all evil, which we all know that verse has been twisted,
right,
and it's the love of
right,
money. It's not
right,
money.
mhm,
Money is doesn't have any emotion. Money doesn't have
right.
any
It's
feeling. It's
amoral,
just a
right.
thing.
It's a tool. Mhm,
So, for me, I have, kind of forged my own path and feel really the weight of the responsibility to take this path that I'm on, that you're on, and share
mhm,
it with other women so we can break some of this bondage. Because why in the world wouldn't God want people that love and follow him to have the wealth? Because just like you said,
mhm,
somebody like you that has a heart to give and a heart to serve, not to say that people that don't follow
right,
Jesus don't, that's not what I'm
right.
saying, but why wouldn't God want money in the hands of the people that can do the most good with that money? Write that $3,000 check so that whatever that specific thing was can happen. Build, digging wells in other countries and helping families when they need it. And I don't believe that God all sometimes, but he doesn't always just call us to give to where we're without. Sometimes
Right,
he does. Sometimes he wants you to give to where you feel the sacrifice. I'm
absolutely.
not saying that. But for the most part, like, I think his plan would be that we understand and steward money well and have enough of it that we can go out and bless the world.
Oh, absolutely. And I could get just as fired up about this conversation because I mean, I've said this before even with you, I genuinely believe that debt is the number one way the devil is cutting Western Christians off at their knees because
Yes.
you can't freaking think. You
Mm-mm-mm.
can't do anything.
Suffocating.
Yeah, like finances touch everything. Like finances touch your marriage, like you were saying. It touches your relationships, it touches your experiences as a family, it touches your sleep at night. Like it touches what food you eat, like what
Yeah.
your Christmas, like literally it touches everything. And so for us to think that, I mean, and I mean, how I don't even know the percentage of how many people are in debt in the US. Let's just
Oh,
keep it with the US.
it's
Oh,
gotta be
like everyone,
staggering.
like pretty much everyone, and it's like, how is that biblical? That's
It's
absolutely
not.
not biblical. And so if we're gonna be, if we have to be one of three places, we got to be in debt, we have to have just enough, and we have to have wealth and beginning to create wealth. Okay, so if debt is not biblical, I would almost argue that like having just enough is kind, and I'm going to say this is with as much love in my heart as possible, but having just enough for you and yours is kind of selfish.
Yeah.
Like I can pay my rent, my bills, my whatever, but here's the deal, like we are in one of the richest nations in the world. And so for you to just be caring about, I just want to have enough to get by. That's all I want. Okay, but wouldn't it be amazing for you to have enough for yourself and your family and then to also be able to bless others? And so to me, it's not, I don't actually, I did have an issue as we started to build wealth when that money started to pile up. And I have a lesson that I'm actually working on right now, and it's called building wealth when poverty exists. Because I'm like, how am I building wealth when people don't have clean water? It feels weird, right? Like it does feel weird. But the truth is that my obedience and my wealth are directly tied to other people's well-being. Like my obedience to my business and to my calling and to helping other women, it naturally and organically creates an income for me. And that income, because I'm a Christian, because I love Jesus, does it all go to giving? No, but the majority really it freaking does. And so, like, and I also, this is kind of a sidestep conversation, but I also really teach on the words that we use. And, people will
Yes.
often say, it's not about the money. It's not about the money. Like, well, did you
Yeah, it
know that
is.
it costs like $4,000 to build a well in Africa? Like, if you want to give everybody a Bible in, wherever, like that costs money. So yes, you need your time, but like money drives change, world change.
Yeah.
And so like let's have our hands in that. I don't,
Well,
you know.
and yes, yes to everything. And the funny thing is there's this guilt, especially amongst
Mhm.
Christians, to say out loud that you're motivated by earning money. There's a lot of guilt. You're really looked down upon, but it's because people have such a wrong mindset about what money is and what it can do. And so I've always been driven by earning, not because I worship money. I don't worship
Mhm.
money. I know what um I don't want to be under the burden of debt. I think
Right.
it is
Miserable.
suffocating in many,
It
many
is.
ways. And there's a lot that goes into that. But I agree with you. And if you look in the Bible, right? If you just look at some of the stories, through many of the people that we've been reading about our whole lives in the Bible, God blessed them with finances and
Mhm.
they did things in the kingdom and blessed other people. So I agree with you on everything, and I think that it's time for a shift. And again, the problem becomes, I know you've probably seen this. You obviously have a really good you know where your head is at. What happens for a lot of people is, and I've been all of the above. I've just made it. I've been totally broke. I've made plenty an abundance of money. And I will tell you that when you're in abundance, I've been around people that have a lot of money. When you're in that position financially and you make a lot of money, something happens to people and they start to put all of their faith and trust in the money, and
Mhm.
lesser trust and faith in who God is, and their identity kind of gets wrapped around the number of zeros in their bank account. It's our human nature, right? We're
Sure.
so
Mhm.
egocentric. It's just what happens. And so really the issue is always about lordship, and it's not just money, it's everything.
Mhm.
It's your identity, it's all these things, but it's about the lordship. So if we can teach women to keep God where God is, then all the other stuff doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? And
Right.
so you make more money. it doesn't change you. And I'll share a tiny, tiny quick story. And
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
I may have shared this on a podcast one time before. So if I did and you're hearing it again, sorry. I a couple of years ago, two cars ago for me, I bought a convertible red Mercedes SL convertible, beautiful little
Nice.
sports car. I
Mhm.
was like, I don't need a mom car now. I'm gonna splurge. It's all
I
relevant to
have a
what we're.
12-passenger van,
Yeah,
so it's
exactly. Well,
beautiful.
you need it.
Yeah.
I didn't need it. And I was like, I'm going to splurge. This is, I just was treating myself. And so, just a stupidly expensive car. My husband's a car person, so it brought him much joy to get it. And anyway, so
Mhm.
I took my mom on a drive in this car. And my mom has massive money mindset issues. Okay. Just generationally, like
Oh,
there's
yeah.
a lot of hangups there. And so I took her for a drive in the car and I put on like the Beatles and took the top down and we were driving. I was just trying to, do
Yeah.
something fun
Have a
with her.
vibe.
And she said, she goes, "Oh my gosh, you're never going to want to ride in my car again," or made this comment, something. And I
Mm,
said, "Mom," I said, "I could get rid of this car tomorrow." Or
yep,
I said, "It does not define me. Am I enjoying it? 110%. Do I need it? Not at all." And so there's something about keeping like the main thing.
yep.
And I think as you earn more, it becomes harder to do that.
I agree.
I do think that because I've had nothing. And when you're broke, it's really easy to cry out to God. And when you're making a ton of money, they're not crying out to God as much.
Right. Yep. Well, and it's interesting, gosh, where was this person from? I can't remember. Honestly, I can't remember if this was a story that my mom was talking about after she went through Ukraine, or if this was a book in a book I read something. But it was basically about I literally can't remember. Like there's so many stories in my head, but there was a missionary that had come over from like a third world country into the US, and they were like, I would never want to live here, And the US, whoever the hosts were like, and I want to say they went to like New York City or something crazy, you know what I mean? Like imagine that, just like craziness. But they were like, I would like, to me this is scary. Like how do you, like, you would never need God here. Do you know what I,
Oh,
like it was just like this
interesting.
change of like, we're like, "Oh, come and look at New York City. Like you're in a third world." Not that we're like that, but you know what I mean? Like, look at all of this development, all of this stuff, and it actually like legitimately scared their heart. Like, I don't know that I would be able to like, do you how would you wouldn't need God. You literally
Yeah.
have everything here. And he's like, I would choose, my, home over this any day. Like this, I think I would get wrapped up in. And I was like, "Ooh, that's really."
What an interesting perspective. And I
Mm,
think that that's what happens. We put our trust in our job, our income, our degree, whatever it is,
mhm.
and when you do mission work or you go into these places, a lot of times the third world countries, they're so wholly in love with and dependent on God, literally for sometimes their daily needs to be met,
Oh, yeah.
food,
Mhm.
water, just medicine, things,
Right.
shelter. And so they're so close to God and relying so wholly on him that I know exactly what he meant by saying that.
Yep.
Because I mean, I'm I'm not perfect. I have moments. I'm sure that I can only imagine how much deeper my faith would be, not with all that we have.
All of the stuff.
Yeah,
Mhm.
the abundance.
All of your comfort and whatever. And I remember in a Bible study I was in, oh gosh, probably like 4 or 5 years ago, we were talking about the just like lukewarmness. And I was like, I am terrified that I think that my faith is, you know, good or whatever. And to find out like when I go to heaven one day that, you know what I mean? That like
Yeah,
God's like, not really. Like you really had everything you needed. Like you thought like, I mean, who knows? But to me, I'm like, that's a genuine fear because I've been in the third world. I've done certain things. Like I have a heart for missions. That is like my heart, like big time. And so, I don't know. I just am like, oh yeah, that's hard when you have money and whatever. And yes, as you build wealth, I think it's harder. Because like you said, you just have all of you want for nothing,
yeah.
but that also you can also help so many people. So there is, I mean, it's a heart check you got to do
It's a heart
constantly.
check. It's all
Mhm.
everything is a heart check. It's specifically the issue of money is such a heart check because people make money their god. I mean, good Christian people make money their god. Yeah, like people
Well,
make.
and Yes, and can I just say too that this is why we have to talk about money.
Yes.
Because because the best way to not idolize something, like, is to have accountability. It's to have conversations. It's to say, like, we do this with, even, I mean, with our health. That's why we have a lot of accountability partners, because it's like, I don't know, I'm kind of slipping, or I'm kind of feeling this way, or whatever, and you have that conversation. Or in marriages, like if you're in a trusted small group, like you know what I mean, things that you're struggling with, like your husband can talk, and you can have these conversations so that you don't slip and you're not. But with finances, we're on a freaking mountain by ourselves. And if I was idolizing money, who freaking knew besides me and God? Because like
Yeah.
nobody talks about it. And so it's like, what are your feelings about it? Where's your heart on this? Like, i just I just want to talk about money. That's all I want to do all day long. And I
So,
want to get people talking about, like, confident enough to ask questions and feel no shame, no guilt. Like, let's just have a conversation.
I love it. I love that you're doing it. I think it's a holy call. And we have IQ, now we have EQ.
Yes.
What's the other one? Chris Valaton's calling it SQ, your spiritual quotient. We need to have
Mm,
FQ, financial
yeah.
quotient. Like
Yes.
we need to have that because
Mhm.
and it's a funny thing. I think that we used to talk about it more when kids were in school, but like we don't talk at all about finances, and it's such like there isn't a person on earth who's not touched by finances.
Oh, for sure.
Like so it's that important, and yet we're still so we're still in such a place of ignorance about it. So I'm so excited that you're doing what you're doing. Will you talk a little bit about the 12-month series that you're doing inside Girl Power Alliance?
Yeah, so did that first one go out, or is it
Yeah,
this coming out okay.
it's out.
So, yeah, so it'll be 12 months. I'll be back once a month and just talking on I'm really going back and forth between money mindset and logistics, because I truly believe that you kind of need a parallel path to go. Because money mindset, that's kind of the deep work that you have to do. Like, you really have to figure out, like, what was my childhood experience with money? Do I have financial trauma? Do I have, all of these things? Am I trying to overcompensate? Like, what am I doing? Like, where am I at with money? And you kind of got to recalibrate. But then also we have to have the practical too, right? Like, how do you do a budget? How do we whatever, track our stuff? How do we have conversations? What is this? Vocab, that kind of thing. And so we have to be doing it kind of at the same time. I personally think money mindset is more important. Typically, we all know what to do. Like, if we want to get out of debt, like, you need to spend less than you make and pay off your debt. Like, really, we kind of know, like, it's simple, but it's not easy. And
Yeah.
so, it's more of the behavior around money that really is hard for us. So, anyways, so next 12 months, I'm just gonna do like a different topic. I kind of have the topics planned out for now, but I mean, we can always, adjust as we go if there's other topics that come up that people want to talk about. So I'm
I'm
super
super
excited.
excited. She will be going live. By the way, you can go live whenever you want inside the
Okay.
private group. Just to connect with people, talk with them, meet them. Because outside of that, she has her own programs. She has one-to-one coaching, which I highly recommend. And
Hmm.
if you're listening to this, you're probably a believer. And I would tell you that it is so important to connect yourself with somebody who shares your foundation of faith, because we literally have just different strategies, principles, things, and so as with any kind of coaching, no matter what kind of coaching it is, if you're not being coached by somebody who shares your beliefs, it's very easy to get off the path. And so it's one of the things when God was downloading the ideas for Girl Power Alliance, he really highlighted coaching and how he wanted me to highlight coaches that coach people, with that foundation of the word of God, because there's millions of coaches now. Everybody's a
Oh
coach for
gosh.
everything,
Yeah. Hmm.
but there are not coaches that are, not nearly as many that are utilizing, this walk with the Lord as the foundation for how they're guiding and directing people. And like, how bad does the world need? I could cry at how bad the
Hmm.
world needs biblical leaders, biblical coaches, biblical guidance, biblical mentors. Like,
Yep.
we are in a desert needing it so badly.
Yes, yes, yes. I completely agree. I used to do this budget coaching years ago for free, just for like my friends who, like, once I was getting out of debt and stuff. But now I absolutely we do it. It's a 90-day coaching program that I do because I think 90 days lets some life happen. You can have a tire blowout, you can, have a diagnosis, you can get pregnant. Like I used to have a 60-day coaching. I'm like, that ain't long enough to have like, oh, like something
Mhm.
happens. I love the 90-day cycle. I believe in like that you can change your life, any area of your life in 90 days. And so, yeah, it is like a very intense one-on-one 90-day coaching. And I just really feel like that accountability, like I said, in your finances, it doesn't even have to be me. It's like, yes, people have great results with me, but truly it's the accountability. So I love
Well,
it.
it's you. It's you. Take credit where credit is due. You're doing
Oh
a
man.
great job. What a blessing you are to the world, and such a blessing to me and to the community of Girl Power Alliance. So, tell everybody where they find you, social media, all your links. How can they connect with you?
Yes. So I'm mainly on Instagram at Legacy Through Motherhood. And simsarrows.com is my website. So that's got like all of my stuff kind of on it. I am on Facebook at Legacy Through Motherhood also. So yeah, that's pretty much, I always forget all of my stuff. I think that's it.
Well, if there's more, don't worry. We're going to put
Okay.
it in the show notes. And so if you're listening to this as an actual audio podcast, just go to the show notes. You'll see all her information. If you're watching this on our YouTube channel, all her information is right below in the information there. And of course, you can find her inside Girl Power Alliance every month, entrusted with her finances, a new episode every month to really, I mean, God put this on my heart back in like October, I think is either September or October, about 2021 being your best year. Like it's the theme inside Girl Power Alliance for the whole year. We're doing a lot of things to show people that literally in one year, this can be your best year. You can really, um, we believed so many lies, but one of the lies that we have believed is that you can only like attack one thing at a time, and then when that's
Mm,
done you can attack. Literally, we have so much capacity. God has given us the ability to, like, every we can change so many things at once just by surrendering it to him and being around the right people. It just happens almost like through osmosis. Like you're around
yeah.
different people, they're saying different things and you change. So
Yes. Well, and I think I love what you do. It truly is on like who you are around because I was a small group leader for years with high school students, and they would always come to me. This is kind of off topic, but not exactly what you just said. They would come to me and be like, "Well, Jesus hung out with the prostitutes and the whatever. Why can't I hang out with X, Y, and Z?" I'm like, "Yeah, he hung out with them and ministered to them, but his inner circle was James and John.
yep.
Like your inner circle matters, and the people you hang out with, the conversations you're having, the books you're reading. I almost say the books you're reading are one of your five people
Yeah.
in your circle." And I will just add that, like, I think with your best year ever, like you said, when you're tackling a bunch of things, I feel like the most important thing and one of the biggest, like, I don't even know if it's a pillar or mission or whatever in my business, is that it is just the small, seemingly insignificant things that will compound over time that ultimately will drive your change. So it's not it doesn't you don't have to revamp your marriage or your finances overnight. It truly is finding like just something that we can take a small step forward with and together. So that's what the
Yeah.
community that you've created is, which is amazing.
Yes, thank you. And and on that, our we were almost done, but now we're going again. But on that,
Sorry.
like,
Yeah, here we go.
because it's incremental changes, first of all, like growth begets growth. You know what I'm saying? So like
Yes.
you start to do one thing. I've worked with people in a lot of different areas, specifically health and nutrition for a lot of years. And it's funny because when you see people start to take control of their physical health, then they actually want to change other things because it's like, well,
Mhm.
this is going so good. Now I want to do this.
I
And
think
so
that's the
to
momentum.
it's momentum, and it's kind of just because you're growing and shifting. So to only focus on one area, it literally makes you off balance. Like it
Mhm.
literally, you get off kilter. So it's like, why not? Like, I believe that we are meant to be healthy and whole and have amazing relationships and minister to people and have our finances right so that we can, I mean, I believe that all of that is part of God's plan for us. And I believe that he allows us to go through specific things so that our what we've gone through can minister to other people. So I'm not saying that we get this life free of problems. Don't
Right,
know anybody
right,
that's
right.
had that yet.
Yeah, no.
um, but, being around, I can just tell you, I've been podcasting since 2017. I started the Girl, and that was a solo podcast. Loved every minute of it. It was very fun, huge growth for me personally. but I started the Girl Power Alliance podcast in April of 2020. And every single podcast I have done has been an interview, every one of them, except
Hmm.
for my first one of 2021 was a solo, but all the other ones. And so, and I did, I recorded like, let's see, 50, like 60 podcasts in
Wow.
in
Wow.
2020,
Yeah,
like
that's
a
a lot.
lot of podcasts. It's an unbelievable amount of podcasts. We put out one a week, so I'm good like almost through March. We have so many of
Oh,
them.
can
And
you pass them to me because I am like with all my babies and being pregnant and getting COVID, man. I'm a week ahead at the moment.
well,
So
that's how my other ones were. My other ones were I'd
yeah.
record and put them out, record and put them out.
Hmm.
But with
Hmm.
this, I just want, I don't know, I did it different.
Well, I think interviews are easier too. Not easier, but they're you can have them
Well,
kind
it
of.
forced me to
You can
do
do a
them
couple.
because people would schedule and be like, "Okay, I'm doing it." And so and I bulk recorded, like, you've done
Yep.
that. So I'd record a
Yep.
couple in a day or whatever.
Yep. Hmm.
But I will tell you, I am a totally different person from just being around these women and interviewing them and the community inside Girl Power Alliance. I came into 2021 feeling like a completely different person than I did going into 2020. And I know a lot of people felt like that just because 2020 was literally the craziest year that any of us have ever
Right.
experienced for a number
Hmm.
of reasons. And so that's part of it too. But really, being around like-minded women, women that are all about growing in whatever
Yep.
various areas, women that put Jesus at the center of everything all the time, and hearing each one of their stories day after day, it
Hmm.
changes you.
Yep.
You can't not be changed.
Right. Yep, that's amazing. Yep. I
Awesome.
mean, that's amazing. I do feel that way every time I interview. I feel like I just want to sit back and like, well, why don't you just do my podcast because you have so much to say and you know what I mean? So I think it's amazing that you're just highlighting all kinds of stuff because I feel the same way. I'm like every time I interview, I'm like, man,
Don't you do you ever
he's
go back
awesome.
and re-listen to your podcasts?
I do.
I've
I do.
re-listened to them because some of them, like, some of the ones that are come out, I've recorded a couple months ago, so you almost
Mm.
forget. Not that you forget, but you kind of do. And so sometimes I'll be at the gym and I'll put my own podcast on. I'm like, "Dang, that was so good."
A good interview.
Not
Yeah.
because of me, but, because
Right.
these women are so remarkable. So,
And I
um,
think when you're just doing the interview, you're almost like
yeah.
you're in it. You know what I mean? And you almost like black out a little bit and
Yeah.
forget the conversation. So, yep.
It's awesome, and you just bless me greatly. I'm so impressed by you. I mean, she's legit a super mom. I mean, legitimately, kids everywhere, including inside of her belly. And by the way, are you done with this one, or do you know, or
I think so. I think so. It's funny. I always wanted 6 kids. And since I was like 16, I've always wanted. And we have 4 boys, this single one. People thought it was twins. It's not twins. And we have one baby that we miscarried back in 2013. So I'm like, our family, I got my 6. We're good.
well, what if it's another boy and not a girl?
I would love it. I love you know what? I'm happy either way. That's why we're not finding out because I'm like, how unique to have 5 boys, you know? And I love this whole boy mom vibe that I have. Obviously, like my mom and I are close, so I'd love to have a daughter, but either way, I'm good.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome just in general. It's the hardest job you ever do,
Yes.
but it's the best job you ever do. So,
Yes.
you're amazing. I'm sure we'll be hearing from you again. Maybe we'll do more podcasts. Who knows? Maybe
Yeah,
a couple months down the road, we'll talk about something else. And so
absolutely.
find her, reach out to her. She can do nothing but help you to grow and to grow your wealth and to wrap your mind around this very, very important issue that impacts every area of your life. And I just want to say thank you again. Thank you for all that you're doing in the world. Thank you for being part of Girl Power Alliance, and thank you for being a guest on my podcast.
Thank you so much for having me on.